I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm just a little off today.
It's okay.
That first day back and everything, and I don't know. Um, one of the things I wanted to bring up, I saw in a string earlier today, and believe me, I knew this was going to happen going in, um, just because sports people are sports people, and it's like herding cats. Um, but there's been some questions on what can we use, what can't we use, can we use stuff for print, and there's several papers who just did not get it right out of the bat. Um, but my intention was um, to use to make available, like if you're printing um, on Saturday and you needed some copy, um, you could use the stuff we had um, for Friday mornings, or Friday's e-edition, the Viking story, or a Gopher football story, or a Minnesota Wild story. You could use that in your print edition, because your print edition goes out at 11 o'clock in the morning because some of these crazy deadlines are 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's just going to be in your print edition, and that'll be good. What some papers were doing was still using that copy for their e-edition remakes then too. And my intention was is that they would use that day old Wild story to fill up their print edition, knowing full well that they were going to remake with local stuff that night for their e-edition, and they would pull that Wild story out. Well, some of them didn't. Or if they did pull that Wild story off the front, they still ran it on page 4. Well, it's now been in your e-edition 2 days in a row. So it's dumb. Plus, I'm going to have an updated Wild story in the shared sports pages. And so now you've got a fresh Wild story and a day old Wild story in your e-edition remix. So that's where we were coming from. But and some of the papers got it and used it the right way. Others, not so much. So last week I kind of had a little bit of a meltdown and said, don't use it at all, but as a former sports editor and as a former editor, I know that some days you need that copy with that early deadlines. So I didn't want to shut off the valve altogether. I just want them to be smart when they use it. So anyway, okay, I'm sorry, my daughter stopped by. So anyway, I'm open to discussions if you guys run into that. What do you think some solutions are? I mean, there's one obvious thing we can do is just say, they can't use anything that was on an e-page for print. And so what I did the second week was, I think it was like on a Monday night, I held back 2 stories, a Wild story or a Wolf story or a Viking story. And I held that back from even going on Monday night for Tuesday's e-edition. And I prepped it solely for print. Like, this hasn't been in your e-edition. It's ready for you. It's under copy use for all. And I did it that way. And some of them used it. And then later on that night, they were still going to use it in their e-edition pages, which is fine. Again, it hasn't been on an e-edition page yet. It's never been on any page yet. And we had a pod designer tell them, no, they couldn't use that because it was already, it was just for their print. Well, it's for their e-edition pages as well. So I guess I'm looking for solutions, or what do you guys think the best way to prep this sports stuff so that, we're not remaking pages we shouldn't, or, running into questions at 9:30 saying, can they still run this twin story? They used it in print today. Can they still use it on their e-edition? So I'm open for suggestions. Anything? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about my sports. Nobody cares.
I
Um,
care, but I don't do it enough. So I don't really know what would be best.
I was talking a little bit with the HUD managers earlier, kind of about the same issue when it comes to e-edition remakes, and sort of the conclusion we came to on using some of that content that they put, the wire content that they put in their print edition, is essentially if they still want it to run on that page so that it fills out the page, you know, so if like on their B3, they've got 3/4 of a page of local content, and then, you know, here's that wild story. If, you know, we'll leave it there, but we're not going to do an additional e-edition page to get in any of that content. So
Yeah, and that makes sense. What I was trying to do, there are some nights, and some of you who have pulled sports before will know this. There are some nights, especially early in the week, when there's a Vikings game just got concluded. By the way, the Vikings are off this week, so there will be less Vikings stories this week. But there is a dearth of I mean, I have 5, 6, 7 stories on Monday and Tuesday, all Vikings related. And, you know, so I've like saved 1 or 2 over, and I'll say, you know, I'll use those for Tuesday morning. I'll put them on the Tuesday, you know, the Wednesday digest for print, because 1, I can't fit them on the shared pages because I've already got 2 other Viking stories on there, you know. And I'm trying to give the sports editors some options, like, hey, here's some copy you can use for print. But yeah, I agree. I don't want to have them have remakes B1, 2, and 3, and they put the Vikings on the cover for the print, but now they want to put it on B4 and do a whole new page for remakes. That shouldn't work. You know, that shouldn't be. Because as much as we want local copy in the print editions, and we do, there's also, we have to remember there's a segment of our print population, you know, print readership, that expects to see a Viking story or a wild story in their print version as well. Not everybody who's a reader of the Fargo Forum or the Grand Forks Herald or the West Central Tribune are all diehard just local. Sometimes they do want to see, you know, other copy out there. So I think we're just going to kind of go forward with it and just try to make it as easy as we can. And I'm trying to send out notes on the night before. Obviously, I didn't Monday night because I was gone. And I'll do it again. I'll try it again on Thursday. I'll send out a note that says, you know, here's the copy that you can use for your print edition for those of you with early deadlines on Friday. Please don't use it in your e-edition remakes. You know, I'm just going to stress that. And hopefully that'll help smooth that. And there's actually, I think, and I know we're recording this, so I don't want to say it too much, but there's one paper out there, I think, that kind of does the remakes the right way. They just add 3 pages in, and it's all local stuff, and that's Wilmer. It really is. I mean, as much headache as, you know, I heart Wilmer. What they're doing is they're saying, hey, here's our B1, 2, and 3 for the print version. And then we're going to do 3 totally local remake pages, and that's it. And that's, so I think they do it well that way. Same with Rochester. So that was my kind of discussion today. Sorry to bore all the non-sports people. But other than that, that's all I got. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Hey, by the way, Alicia, I saw the note yesterday. Was it yesterday you sent out the note about the killed e-pages?
I think it was Monday evening.
Monday evening.
Yes.
Okay.
But
did you guys discuss that yesterday and everything? And
no, I was going to discuss it here today.
oh, okay.
So,
because I was pretty excited about that when I was gone.
Yeah. So I want to go over a few things with that. The first thing is that we're going to try getting rid of lottery. We're just testing with Fargo right now. And it starts actually tonight for tomorrow's paper. That essentially that line that they have at the bottom of their A2 with all the lottery numbers, I just deleted that and moved everything else down. So they will have no lottery numbers going forward. And that also means that on print days, they will not have an A2 remake anymore because they've just been remaking that A2 solely for lottery numbers. So that won't be a thing anymore. We're going to see what the reader response is. If people notice, if they notice how upset they get, how many of them get upset, just kind of see. I think the general consensus is that, if people are on the internet, they're not coming to our e-edition to get the lottery numbers. They're probably just going to go to the lottery websites. So we're looking into that because, that is kind of a time suck. We do remakes to get lottery in. Those of you who have had to pull those lottery numbers know that that's kind of annoying. And then, the designer's copying it over. And then plus, it's kind of an excellent opportunity for error when you're dealing with like a bunch of numbers and then you have to put, and I always worry that we're going to get somebody's the number wrong and then somebody's going to think that they won and they're going to do something obscene to their boss's desk and then find out that actually they didn't. And then they're going to sue us because, whatever. But we're going to try that experiment, see what happens, and then we'll move forward from there. And then the other thing is that, yes, we are going to drop really most of our shared pages. So we will still do 2 shared Nation World pages every day. And then our shared sports pages, that won't change. Other than that, pretty much everything is gone. We have added 2 shared pages that are essentially probably just going to go to the weeklies because the dailies already use the content, but it's the Lost Italian from Fargo and the Don Kinsler column from Fargo, just because we know that's very popular content. And because when the designer is putting that content together, they're essentially doing a full page for that content anyways. So, when the designer is assigned this coming Saturday's Forum Variety cover, that person is going to be assigned the Tuesday garden page at the same time. And then they'll put together that Don Kinsler page and put it on both pages at the same time. So it's not really a lot more work, but then, for our weeklies and for those dailies who request that page because they don't use other stuff, they'll get that then. Yes,
Great,
Matt?
man.
Mhm.
So does that mean Meredith and I still prep the Don Kinsler columns the same way, like Angie would put them on the incoming board and
Yes.
you would?
Yep. Because those pages are only automatically going to be shared with the weeklies because most of our dailies use one or both of those columns.
Okay.
And so when I talk to editors, there's a meeting tomorrow. When I talk to editors tomorrow about the change, I'm going to tell them that we will keep putting that on the Pod Digest so they can continue to use it in print. And if there are any of those who don't use it in any of their regular editions and would like us to add it to their e-edition, to let me know. And then I'll set up the system to automatically send it for them. But we're not going to stop them from using it in their regular editions if that's what they've been doing. Yep, Meredith?
We can talk more about this later, but with this change, we can still obviously add an e-page or 2 when it's content driven, when we have a special
Yes.
photo page or somebody famous dies and we want to do a look back at the career, and that way it's more dictated by the news.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm okay. Last week, Angela Lansbury died. So, for that, probably we put in an entertainment page and then we can do a page of Angela Lansbury. If something wild and crazy happens in the business world, somebody makes a lot of money or loses a lot of money or, other businessy things, we can put in a business page. If, we have something for nation, for local, whatever, that would make a great photo page, we can put in a great photo page. We can still put in pages when there are things that merit those pages. We're just not going to force ourselves to put together those pages every day when there's not the content every day that merits those pages and not the content every day to make it worth, the readers aren't stopping to read it. So where we're at that.
Well, and I think too, I think without having the business page, to use that as an example, um, for those of us who look at the wires, for Hannah, myself, others, especially when we're trying to ramp up advance work too. I still, we're still going to try to offer, and we should, every day on the pod digest, 1 to 3 business stories every day, either from TNS or Reuters, so that when you're looking to fill your dailies, especially, you're able to use that. We just have more of that option out there. So
Yeah, because Fargo and Rochester have daily. I think Fargo's is daily as well, business pages. And then Mitchell tends to use those a lot as filler too. So there's still a need for that.
Yeah. So we'll still be pulling those stories, but we won't have to be trying to find some business stories to put on the budget and some to put on the page and, all that kind of stuff. We will have, though, in the Saturday edition, there will be a business page that's intended to be kind of a weekly wrap up. And so that would be, I'm just going to email out the deadlines for all of these pages to all of you rather than try to go over them now. But I've got that as a deadline of 8 p.m. on Friday is when we need to get that to designers by. So that way we have time after all the markets close on Friday, because, it's intended to be kind of a wrap up of, okay, here's what the stock market did this week, and this is where the dollar is, and the government made, these decisions, and, the Fed raised interest rates, and so far it's done this, and, so instead of a bunch of stuff about like individual businesses, it's more of an overall look. And one thing, I'm thinking we could do with that, and I'm open to thoughts, is that perhaps some of those things from throughout the week, even if we put them in the other pages, we could still, like if we put them on the digest, we could still create a briefs package out of some of those. So like, I think today on The Wire, Microsoft fired like 1,000 people or something, they had a big layoff, so, maybe that's in there, and, whatever the new Tesla thing is, or, Tesla missed their quarterlies.
Does TNS move any kind of? I mean, do we know that they move
Yes.
a week wrap up kind of a deal?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I know they used to run a week ahead. I mean, they used to make available for Mondays like the week ahead in business, which makes me want to go to sleep. But for others, it might be good news.
It's so for those who are interested in that the content is available. TNS does move a bunch of good things. One thing about those is that they often don't move them with art. So next week in our team meeting that we're sharing with the hub, I'm going to go over, we have a ton of file and stock art of different things that we have saved and already processed. And we're not using it because I think, most of our team doesn't know what we have available or where to tell designers to get it. And I think a lot of designers either don't know where it is or have forgotten that it exists, stuff like that. Sports logos, mugs, stocks, stock art, stuff like that. So we'll go over that to help with that issue. But Tribune moves a number of good things. And Reuters does as well at the end of the week. They do move some, global markets did this week, and that means that it's good for China, but it's bad for Greece, or, whatever's going on with all that kind of stuff. We're keeping the travel page because people really enjoy the travel page, and, we've got good content available. We've heard from readers that they like it. Our analytics show that people actually stop and read that page. And then, sometimes it's just nice to be flipping through and have a page with a beach on it.
Yeah.
And it's January. So really it's for my mental health. But, and then the other page we're adding is that for Wednesday and Saturday, we will have one page. It's called News Analysis. And essentially what we're looking for with that page is stories that go a little bit deeper than the headlines. So some of the examples I gave when we were talking about creating this page are, so Queen Elizabeth died, and obviously, Britain's in mourning, but there's some Irish people like jumping into the procession to like yell about how happy they are. And, there was a bunch of parties in Africa and India and, like what's going on with that? What's the history of that? Kind of the details behind that. Biden announced the student loan forgiveness plan, and our wire services moved some good stories about, the history of the pressure for student loan forgiveness, what exactly this is going to mean for the average person, what economists were saying the long-term effects are going to be, like, will millennials finally be able to have houses? Things like that. The primary source that I have found for that content is under Tribune. If you log into the Tribune site, on the left, they've got, news service, and then there's news stories and news features stories. If you click stories next to news features, then they generally have a bunch. So, just scroll back through a while and see what they have that, again, just kind of goes deeper into the news. And as we work on these, if you're like, I think this is one, but I'm not sure, if you want to run it past me, certainly let me know, or, Matt's available too. Reuters does move some good analysis sometimes, and it's all marked with the word analysis. So you can just search the word analysis on Reuters, and sometimes that will help you come up with good stuff.
The news features are good from Tribune generally, but you have to kind of watch out for the the host paper. Where is it from? So if it's the Dallas Morning News doing a take on, let's say it's something to do with, Biden did the oil reserves today, or, loosened the oil reserve. And let's say in a day or two, you click on the news features and it's something about the oil reserves, and it's from the Dallas Morning News. Make sure we're reading this copy and not just grabbing it because it says 1,500 words and it's got a photo. Because a good portion of that might be able to be edited out because it's all in the Dallas area. This, and this will happen. Well, I don't give a shit what happens in the Dallas area. I'm looking at the bigger picture. So some of those can be trimmed if you're looking at, what the host paper is. If it's a climate story and it's out of LA Times, expect 5 or 6 graphs just about, in the LA area or something like that. And you can usually kind of whittle that down, and that also allows you to use more art too, in a way that's not postage stamp photos. And so just be wary of that when you're looking through some of that. Is, look what the host paper is, and look for those localizations that, while good for the Dallas reader, might not be good for the Fargo reader. So.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Read through them, make sure that they are actually of the general interest to our area, and that anything localized is cut out. The other thing is that, ideally I would like us to be able to have 2 items on that page instead of just 1. And the stories from Tribune and their analysis are often long, but like Matt pointed out, a lot of the times it's like, okay, and then here's the local angle of it. So we don't necessarily need that. I just kind of, I opened the page to look at what they've got for today, and they have a digital map thing that some schools are adding in as a new way to keep schools safe in the aftermath of Uvalde. And then about how, given a lot of the laws governing children who are transgender and their ability to get medical treatment, families are trying to move, but some of them can't move. And this is why, and what they're doing about that. Congress didn't add dental coverage to Medicare. So it's like stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff that it's like, okay, so the news was that Congress refused to pass the dental thing. And so then this analysis piece is about, okay, so what are the other options then? Is there, can Medicare do it without congressional approval? Can states do it? Just kind of walks through things like that. So it's just kind of a deeper look at some of the news things. Questions on any of that? I think they're longer than I meant it to, but
This all starts like Monday for Tuesday of next week, right?
Sunday for Monday.
Monday, Monday.
Yep.
And we did mention that the Minnesota State page you're looking at
It's gone.
that gone.
Yep. Yeah. The only potential thing is that right now we put together a Minnesota State page for Rochester for their Wednesday edition, since their Wednesday is an e-edition instead of print like everybody else's. This all is being announced to editors tomorrow morning at the meeting with them. And so I will follow up with Jeff Peters after that and see. I mean, honestly, he could just say that page 4 should still have Minnesota news on it, and we can take Minnesota news from the Pod Digest, since that's, you know, pretty much what we do for that page for them right now. You know, it doesn't need to be like an official shared page that only goes on one paper. So I will have an official answer for that on next week for all of you. But otherwise, yep, everything's gone, starting with Monday's paper. So I will update the coverage document to put who's responsible for some of these, the new shared pages and stuff. And we will look at workloads from there and figure out what we need to do to balance things if we need to make other changes. But I'm excited for this because I think we've been using a lot of our time and a lot of designers' time to put together pages that our readers just haven't found as valuable as we were hoping they would, you know, because the content wasn't necessarily there or the content wasn't that compelling for them. So, and, you know, again, you know, as Meredith had said, when there is compelling content, we can absolutely, you know, add pages. You know, like we're getting rid of that trends and shopping page, but if you're looking at the wires and Tribune moved a really good, like, here's some like really interesting and cool gifts you can get for your moms, since moms are hard to buy for Christmas, or, you know, and it's like a photo page with information, and it's like, that's actually really interesting. We can pull that and make that. If you want to add a page, talk to the hub manager on duty, and they will take care of communicating with the layout center to get the page added into page track. Lily?
Should I still try to check the food section on Monday? Because I will say that I think that people would kind of like recipes every now and then. I think would be decent filler.
Mhm.
And every now and then they do have some interesting stories. Like this week, they had one about cereals that could no longer be considered healthy with FDA new rules.
Oh, yep.
So like things like, which really disappointed me because I love Frosted Mini Wheats. But, you know, things like that could be of use to people. Like I think every now and then they have some really good stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And that stuff could be added under features on our regular digest, you know, because then the papers that have, you know, a feature section, then they can put like, hey, have you been eating Frosted Mini Wheats because you thought they were healthy? Guess what? The government says.
They might say that. I'm
yeah.
fingers
Then-
crossed. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Well-
we can absolutely still be, you know, putting that stuff on the digest. And then, you know, I think it would be nice for papers to be able to put in recipes.
I
too.
think some also could be considered under like the News MD, because sometimes they've been doing they share studies of obesity, they share studies of blood pressure or how coffee's good for you, you know, that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah. If it's health stuff, put it under News MD. Definitely, for sure.
I think that they only update the budget once a week. So I was going to say maybe I just check Monday mornings as usual. Kind of
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, like Meredith said, we can add like, and again, I, you know, for Hannah, who's checking the wires as part of her duties every day, for myself, I look through them routinely. But, you know, yeah, we could have fun with you know, it's the month of the horror movie. So, you know, we could do a horror movie page. That might not appeal to some, but maybe to others. We can do, like Lily mentioned with the food, you know, they're going to have, you know, we can do Christmas cookie page, and we can do you know, but it's like Meredith said, it's us dictating it rather than, oh shit, we got to fill this page. What are we going to put there? Now we can kind of determine that on our own. So I really like that approach.
Yes. And then I know we've talked about it before, but just so that we've mentioned it again while we're having this conversation about the shared pages, is The sports pages, that 4 are put into page track every day, but if there's not the content for 4 pages, that's okay. I mean, we're coming up to the holidays, and some of those holiday days, there's not going to be that much stuff. I want us to always have at least 2 pages that we're putting in there. So we've got stories and scoreboard, but you know, if there's not 4 pages worth of sports stuff that's worth going in our paper, then certainly don't waste everyone's time with putting 4 pages in. And again, if you want to cut some of the sports pages, just let the hub manager on duty know, because they'll be taking care of that stuff.
Well, yeah, and then this is an update for everybody. We did decide we were going to do a Wisconsin page every day. It just turns out that I was under the impression that TNS had Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and it had, you know, the Green Bay Gazette. It doesn't. So that kind of limits us with Wisconsin news. So for those of you who are doing Wisconsin pages, you know, you may be asked to grab that Milwaukee Bucks game, and even though it's a pro game and or the Wisconsin Badgers play college basketball,
Marquette.
yeah, or Marquette or whatever it may be, you know, for those of you doing sports on a nightly basis for Duluth, you may be asked to get that Milwaukee Bucks game, and it's just not. I wasn't going to put it on the bottom of a shared sports page, and then have Jamestown say, "Why is the Milwaukee Bucks at the bottom of the 3rd shared sports page? We don't care about the Milwaukee Bucks." So we're not going to do a Wisconsin page except Monday for Tuesday or Sunday for Monday, because there is the Packers. And since they suck, we're only going to do that, you know, for 10 more weeks during the season. So yay. So yeah, that's this Wisconsin update.
Okay. Any other questions on any of this? Okay. I'm assuming that questions will come up as you're working on it. Let me know. Let Matt know. You know, we'll work through it, and there might be some stuff we just need to figure out as we go along, what our procedure for stuff is going to be. But, you know, again, I'm excited for this. It's a better use of our time than we can devote our time to other things. And designers can be devoting their time to, you know, giving some of their pages the attention they deserve so that they can do, you know, more creative and interesting design. And so I'm excited for all of it. Thank you all. If you come up with any questions, let me know.